I never thought I would be telling this story. For 8 years, my wife Stephanie and I had what I believed was a solid marriage built on trust and communication. Then, one evening over dinner, she casually suggested we should try an open marriage to explore and grow together. I was blindsided, but soon discovered the painful truth: she was already seeing someone else. Not just anyone, but Jackson Palmer, the CEO of her company. What I never expected was how drastically things would change when he suddenly ghosted her, and I found unexpected comfort with Jessica, her best friend. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and hit subscribe if you have ever had your trust shattered in a relationship. I met Stephanie during our junior year of college at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was studying marketing while I was pursuing computer science. We connected instantly over our shared love of indie films and hiking. She had this infectious laugh that could light up a room and an ambitious spirit I found captivating. After graduation, we both found solid jobs in the same city and moved in together a year later. Our wedding was small but perfect, just close friends and family at a rustic venue in the mountains. We bought a modest house in a nice suburb and settled into what I thought was the beginning of our happily ever after. I worked as a software engineer for a healthcare company, while Stephanie climbed the ranks at a prestigious marketing firm. We were comfortable, happy, and planning for our future together. Stephanie's best friend Jessica had been part of our lives since college. She was the maid of honor at our wedding and lived just 20 minutes away from us. The three of us would often have dinner together, go on weekend trips, or just hang out watching movies. Jessica was like family to both of us, the kind of friend who would help you move or bring soup when you were sick without being asked. The first subtle changes in our relationship happened after Stephanie received a significant promotion at her firm. She became the lead marketing strategist, which meant she was suddenly working with high-profile clients and attending exclusive networking events. I was genuinely proud of her success, never suspecting it would create such a divide between us. Those late nights at essential networking events started becoming more frequent. Twice a week turned into 4 times. Then it seemed like every weeknight she was coming home after I had gone to bed. When I would ask about these events, her answers became increasingly vague. Just drinks with potential clients or team building with the executives. Along with her new position came new tastes. Suddenly, our favorite local restaurants were too basic. The clothes I had always seen her look beautiful in were now not sophisticated enough for her professional image. She started buying designer items that cost more than our monthly mortgage payment, justifying them as investments in her career advancement. Our weekend hikes were replaced with her spa days and exclusive gym sessions. Our movie nights dwindled, until they disappeared entirely. I tried to bridge the growing gap between us by suggesting date nights, leaving little notes in her purse or cooking her favorite meals. My efforts were met with polite appreciation but no reciprocation. It was Jessica who first verbalized what I had been feeling. "Stephanie seems different lately," she said one afternoon when she stopped by while Stephanie was at a business brunch on a Saturday. "Is everything okay between you two?" I brushed it off then, not wanting to admit even to myself that something fundamental was changing in our marriage. The bomb dropped during a rare dinner together at home. I had cooked her favorite pasta dish and opened a bottle of wine, hoping to reconnect. Halfway through the meal, Stephanie set down her fork and looked at me with clinical detachment. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about us," she began. "I believe we should consider opening our marriage." I nearly choked on my wine. Opening our marriage. What does that mean exactly? It means giving each other the freedom to explore connections with other people while maintaining our primary relationship, she explained, as if reading from a textbook. Many couples are embracing more progressive relationship models. It fosters growth and prevents stagnation. The conversation that followed was surreal. This woman, who had promised to be faithful to me, was now explaining the benefits of seeing other people as if she were pitching a business proposal. When I expressed hurt and confusion, she sighed with disappointment. "I thought you would be more evolved about this," she said. "This resistance just shows your insecurity. Do you not want me to be happy I went to bed that night feeling like I was losing my mind?" Had I misunderstood what marriage meant to her all along? Was I really being controlling by expecting monogamy in a relationship that had been established as exclusive from the beginning? For the first time in our marriage, I felt completely alone. Over the next few weeks, Stephanie brought up the idea of an open marriage repeatedly. Each conversation followed the same pattern. She would introduce articles she had read or podcasts she had listened to about successful non-monogamous relationships, and when I expressed reservations, she would subtly suggest that I was being closed-minded or insecure. "Marriage should evolve as people evolve," she insisted. "We are not the same people we were when we got married." Why should our relationship structure stay frozen in time? When I pointed out that significant changes to a relationship should be mutual decisions, not unilateral ones, she accused me of not listening to her needs. You say you love me, but you refuse to even consider something that is important to me, became her frequent refrain. The manipulation was relentless. She left books about open relationships on my nightstand. She shared stories of friends who supposedly had successfully opened their marriages, though when pressed, she could never provide specific examples. She even suggested we watch documentaries about polyamory, which felt less like education and more like propaganda for her cause. I found myself increasingly confused and doubting my own feelings. Was I being unreasonable? To try to understand better, I researched open relationships, extensively joined online forums, and even spoke to a therapist. Everything I learned emphasized that successful open relationships required a foundation of rock-solid trust, meticulous honesty, and the enthusiastic consent of both partners. None of these conditions existed in our situation. After nearly a month of psychological pressure, I reluctantly agreed to try an open arrangement, but with strict ground rules, complete transparency about who we were seeing, regular check-ins about our feelings, veto power, if either of us became uncomfortable, and a clear agreement that our marriage remained the priority. Stephanie was visibly excited when I agreed, which only deepened my suspicion that this had been her plan all along. While I approached the situation with hesitation and had no immediate desire to pursue other relationships, she seemed to have a plan already in motion. Within days, she had updated her social media profiles, downloaded dating apps, and bought new outfits for what she called exploring opportunities. My first real clue that something was seriously wrong came when I noticed she was exclusively communicating with one person. Despite all her talk about exploration and multiple connections, her attention was focused solely on Jackson Palmer, the 45-year-old CEO of a successful tech company that was a client of her firm. I discovered his identity when I overheard her on the phone, using a flirtatious tone I had not heard directed at me in months. When questioned, she was surprisingly forthcoming. Yes, I am seeing Jackson. He is exactly the kind of sophisticated, successful man I want to explore connections with. You should be looking for your own connections instead of monitoring mine. As weeks passed, the open part of our marriage seemed to apply only to Stephanie. She spent 3 or 4 nights a week with Jackson while I sat at home trying to understand how my life had unraveled so quickly. I had no interest in dating others, as I was still processing the fundamental shift in my marriage. When I expressed my discomfort with the imbalance, Stephanie dismissed my concerns. "You have the same freedom I do," she said. "It is not my fault. You are not taking advantage of it." The boundaries we had established crumbled quickly. Stephanie stopped sharing details about her time with Jackson, claiming I was using the information to make her feel guilty. She missed our scheduled check and conversations because she was too busy. When I tried to exercise my veto power, expressing that the situation was causing me significant distress, she accused me of trying to control her. One afternoon while Stephanie was out, I was searching for our tax documents when I found receipts for expensive gifts. A Swiss watch worth thousands of dollars, designer clothing, with the tags still on, hidden in the back of her closet. These were not items I had given her, nor could she have afforded them on her salary. They were clearly gifts from Jackson, violations of our agreement about keeping emotional and financial boundaries clear. During this painful period, Jessica became my lifeline. She would come over with takeout food when Stephanie was with Jackson, listening to my confusion and hurt without judgment. "This does not sound like an open marriage," she observed after hearing the full story. "It sounds like Stephanie wanted permission to have an affair without giving up the security of having you waiting at home." When I finally gathered the courage to confront Stephanie with the evidence of the expensive gifts and broken agreements, her reaction was tellingly defensive. After initial denials and deflections, she finally admitted the truth during a heated argument. "Fine, yes, Jackson and I were already emotionally involved before I suggested opening our marriage." She confessed, more irritated than remorseful. "But I did the right thing by trying to make it work within our marriage instead of just cheating like most people would." Her confession stunned me into silence. She had not suggested an open marriage as a mutual journey of growth, but as a way to legitimize an affair that had already begun to assuage her guilt while keeping me as a backup plan. The final piece of the puzzle came from Jessica, who revealed something she had been reluctant to tell me. "I saw Stephanie and Jackson together at the Westlake Hotel bar, 2 months before she ever mentioned open marriage to you," she admitted. "They were clearly more than professional associates." I confronted her about it, and she swore it was just a business meeting that ran late. I wanted to believe her, With this revelation, everything fell into place. The late nights, the sudden interest in open relationships, the specific targeting of Jackson as her exploration, all of it had been an elaborate deception. Our marriage had not been opened, it had been betrayed with my reluctant consent manipulated out of me under false pretenses. As this truth settled in, Stephanie made less effort to maintain even the pretense of our marriage. She stopped asking about my day, rarely cooked or helped with household chores, and treated our home like a hotel she occasionally visited. The woman I had built a life with was disappearing before my eyes, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Someone captivated by wealth and status, willing to sacrifice our history for the excitement of being with a powerful man. The breaking point came when Stephanie casually announced she would be spending an entire week at Jackson's beach house in the Hamptons. Not asked, not discussed. Simply informed me as one might tell a roommate they would be away. When I pointed out that this extended trip violated even the loosest interpretation of our open marriage agreement, she was dismissive. "You are making too big a deal of this," she said while packing an expensive suitcase I had never seen before. "Use this time to do something for yourself. Maybe you should try actually dating someone instead of moping around the house." After she left, the silence of our home was deafening. I called Jessica, who immediately came over with comfort food and a sympathetic ear. "You do not deserve this treatment," she said firmly as we sat on the porch. "No one does." What began as one evening of support turned into a weekend of honest conversations. Jessica stayed in our guest room, and we spent days talking about everything: my marriage, her past relationships, our values and hopes. For the first time in months, I felt heard and understood. There was no manipulation, no subtle put-downs, just authentic human connection. "I have never understood why Stephanie started taking you for granted," Jessica admitted on the second night as we sat in the backyard looking at the stars. "Any woman would be lucky to have someone who loves as deeply as you do." Her words touched something in me, a reminder that my capacity for love and loyalty was not a weakness to be exploited, but a strength to be valued. By Sunday evening, I had reached a decision that felt both terrifying and liberating. I would end my marriage to Stephanie. The trust was irrevocably broken, and I deserved a chance at genuine happiness. I expected to have a week to prepare for the difficult conversation, but Monday evening I heard a key in the lock. Stephanie walked in her usual confident demeanor, replaced by something fragile and agitated. She had returned from her trip 5 days early. "Jackson and I are taking a break," she announced without preamble, setting down her bags. The trip did not go as expected. I waited, sensing there was more to the story. After pacing the living room, she finally continued. "He got a call from his wife on the second day," she said, her voice cracking. "Apparently she surprised him by showing up at the beach house. He told me I needed to leave immediately." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. "His wife Jackson is married." Stephanie nodded miserably. "He told me they were separated and in the process of divorcing. But from what I overheard on the phone, that was a lie. They are very much still together. She just travels frequently for work." "So he was using you," I said, the irony not lost on me. "It gets worse," Stephanie continued, sinking onto the couch. "He sent me a text this morning saying our arrangement was over permanently. His wife had found messages on his phone. He said he cannot risk his marriage and family reputation over what he called a temporary diversion. That is what I was to him, a temporary diversion." As she dissolved into tears, I felt a strange detachment. The woman crying before me had systematically dismantled our marriage for a relationship built entirely on lies, and now expected sympathy when those same lies had been turned against her. "I was so stupid," she sobbed. "I risked everything for him. But I see now what truly matters. We can fix this, James. We can close our marriage and work through this together. I made a terrible mistake, but our history together means more than this one bad decision." In that moment, I saw with perfect clarity what I had been unable to see before. Stephanie was not crying over losing Jackson or hurting me, but over the damage to her self-image and the loss of the exciting lifestyle he had offered. She had not once acknowledged the months of manipulation, the lies, or the pain she had caused me. Her entire focus was on what she had lost and how I could help her feel better about herself. "I want a divorce," I said quietly. Her tears stopped abruptly. "What? No, you are just angry right now. You do not mean that." "I do mean it. This is not about Jackson or what happened this weekend. This is about the fact that you manipulated me, lied to me, and betrayed our marriage vows. You did not suggest an open marriage in good faith. You were already involved with him and wanted permission to continue without guilt." Her expression shifted from shock to something harder. "You cannot just throw away 8 years of marriage." Where would you even go? How would you manage without me? My family has always helped us financially. I will figure it out, I said, surprised by my own calm. But this marriage is over. What followed was a desperate campaign to change my mind. Stephanie swung between tears and anger accusations and pleading. She claimed I was abandoning her when she needed me most. She threatened financial consequences, knowing her family had connections that could impact my career. When these tactics failed, she began rewriting history. Our marriage was in trouble long before Jackson, she claimed. You were always emotionally distant, married to your work. I was lonely and unappreciated. I later discovered she had been telling this revised version to our friends for months, painting herself as the neglected wife and me as the cold, inattentive husband to justify her behavior. Several mutual friends had already taken sides based on her fictitious narrative. It was Jessica who stood up for the truth. At a dinner with our social circle that Stephanie had organized to gain sympathy, Jessica calmly but firmly corrected the record. I have known both of you for years, she stated. And what you are describing, Stephanie, is not the marriage I observed. James was always attentive and supportive of your career, even when it meant sacrificing his own opportunities. Stephanie's betrayal had extended beyond our marriage, to manipulating our entire social circle. But with Jessica's support and the clarity that came with distance, I found the strength to move forward. I rented a small apartment across town and began the process of disentangling our lives. Throughout the separation, Jessica remained a steadfast friend, helping me navigate the practical and emotional challenges of ending a long-term marriage. Our connection deepened naturally, built on a foundation of genuine respect and understanding. Unlike my relationship with Stephanie, there was no power imbalance, no manipulation, just two people who valued each other's company and perspective. The first time I realized my feelings for Jessica had evolved beyond friendship was after a long hike, something Stephanie and I had once enjoyed together, but she had abandoned. As Jessica and I sat watching the sunset from a mountaintop, I found myself wanting to reach for her hand to share not just this moment, but many more. The months that followed were both painful and healing. I focused on rebuilding my sense of self through therapy, reconnecting with old friends, and pouring energy into my career. The divorce proceedings revealed even more of Stephanie's deceptions, including hidden credit card debt and lies she had told both our families about the reasons for our separation. Throughout this difficult time, Jessica remained my rock. We were careful to give the situation the respect it deserved, maintaining appropriate boundaries while I finalized my divorce. We spoke openly about the complexity of our evolving relationship, both aware of the potential complications but also the genuine connection we shared. Stephanie discovered our growing closeness through social media and reacted with vindictive fury. She sent scathing messages accusing Jessica of having planned to steal her husband all along. She called mutual friends to spread rumors about an affair that had never happened. Her attempts to poison our relationship only highlighted the toxic patterns I had finally escaped. 6 months after moving out, my divorce was finalized. That evening, Jessica and I had dinner at a quiet restaurant to mark the end of that chapter of my life. Under the soft lighting, with no more legal ties binding me to the past, I finally expressed what had been growing in my heart. These months have shown me what a genuine connection feels like, I told her. With you, I never feel manipulated or judged. I can be fully myself. Jessica smiled, her eyes reflecting the same warmth I felt. I always saw the real you, even when Stephanie tried to make you doubt yourself. And I like that person very much. We decided to build our relationship slowly, mindful of its unusual beginnings, but confident in the authentic foundation we had established. With Jessica, there were no power games, no hidden agendas, just open communication and mutual respect. A year after my separation from Stephanie, I received an email from her. It was not exactly an apology, but it was the closest thing to accountability she had ever shown. I have been doing some reflection, she wrote. While I still believe we grew apart naturally, I acknowledge that my handling of the situation with Jackson was hurtful to you. I am working on myself and hope someday you can think of our good times together rather than how things ended. I did not respond, but I felt a sense of closure. Stephanie would likely never fully understand the depth of her betrayal or take true responsibility for her actions, but that was no longer my burden to bear. My journey from a manipulated husband to a man who reclaimed his self-worth taught me invaluable lessons. I learned to recognize the subtle signs of emotional manipulation. I discovered that true love does not diminish but elevates both people. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most authentic beginnings. Jessica and I continue to build our relationship one day at a time, with no guarantees except our commitment to honesty and mutual growth. The path that led us together was unconventional and painful, but the connection we share is more genuine than anything I experienced in my marriage. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship that was breaking your spirit in order to find yourself again? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or you know someone who might need to hear it, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest healing, and no one should feel trapped in a relationship built on manipulation. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve a love that makes you more, not less, of who you truly are.